Bismillah.
Okay, we are and start recording.
Just 1 second. Okay, yeah, it's on YouTube.
Yeah, wait for Shayan. Go ahead, then we will start.
Okay, I'm just starting recording. Record on this computer. Okay, done.
Send the link to all.
Jazakallah. Thank you. Let's mute all.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Are we okay now? Shayan, brother? Brother Shayan, can we start now, please?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. You are in seminar on Islamic Will conducted by GTA Professionals and Islamic Will Group of Canada. आप हजरात इस वक्त सेमिनार पे है जो फ्री इस्लामिक विल का सेमिनार कर रहे हैं हम लोग विद द हेल्प ऑफ आवर एक्सेलेंट लॉयर्स ग्रुप अमीर लॉ ग्रुप हमारे साथ जाते होंगे इंशाल्लाह वल अजीज इसके अंदर लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस आप पूछ सकते हैं थ्रू चैट नॉट वोकल तो ये भी है तो वी आर ट्राइंग टू हैव अ बाइलिंगुअल सेशन दिस वन नाउ आई रिक्वेस्ट ब्रदर मुस्तफा टू स्टार्ट विद रिसिटेशन ऑफ कुरान पाक and then Imam Sahib will talk on Islamic perspective of will. Please, Mustafa, brother Mustafa, start. Bismillah, Mustafa.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يوصيكم الله في أولادكم للذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين فإن كن نساء فوق اثنتين فلهن ثلثا ما ترك وإن كانت واحدة فلها النصف وليبويه لكل واحد منهما السدس مما ترك إن كان له ولد وإن لم يكن له ولد وورثه أبواه فليمه الثلث فإن كان له إخوة فلأمه السدس من بعد وصية يوصي بها أو دين آباؤكم وأبناؤكم لا تدرون أيهم أقرب لكم نفعا فريضة من الله إن الله كان عليما حكيما صدق الله العظيم.
Thank you, brother Mustafa. This is Hamid Pacha Siddiqui Habibi. I'll be just monitoring that. Now I request brother and Allah Imam Ismail Sahab, please आप इस पे रोशनी डालिएगा इस्लामिक पर्सपेक्टिव क्या है विल बनाने का वसीयतनामे का.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Everyone hearing me?
Yeah, please.
Yes. Innal hamdalillahi nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd faqad qala Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Kutiba alaykum idha hadara ahadakumul maut in taraka khayranil wasiyyah الوصية للوالدين والأقربين بالمعروف حقا على المتقين وقال سبحانه وتعالى في موضع آخر في سورة النساء يوصيكم الله في أولادكم للذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين إلى آخره. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في الحديث تركت فيكم أمرين لن تضلوا ما مسكتم بهما كتاب الله وسنة نبيه عليهما الصلاة والتسليم أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. We begin with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is most compassionate, most merciful. We sending salawat upon the Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Imamul Anbiya, seal of the Prophet, and the last messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My dear respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. First and foremost, we would like to thanks for those who are providing this great opportunity for all of us. As Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam mentioned it, we should appreciate the people, those who not appreciating, do not who thanking to the mankind, they're not thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a great opportunity these brothers are providing for all of us, because this is important for all of us. As Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam mentioned it in the hadith, is important for all of us that everyone need to have Islamic will. Is the best way to make sure your family knows exactly what your wish are regarding all things which you own and which you owe. It is important to have one. Living no will matter we are making the complicate. In the hadith, Sahih al-Bukhari, very important hadith, it is stated that it is the duty of the Muslimin who has anything to bequest not to let 2 nights pass without writing a will about it. From this hadith, we could understand that every Muslim who has anything to will is required to have a last will ready. Especially mentioned in this hadith that according to Quran and Sunnah, Quran mentioned in so many places that it is duty for the Muslimin that each and every person should have an Islamic will. Do not pass even the single night. Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam mentioned, Taraktu fikum amrain, lan tadillu ma massaktum bihima kitabullah wa sunnati nabiyyihi. We are the following tradition of the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. And in this hadith, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam mentioned it. I have left behind 2 things. You will never go in wrong way as long as you are tight onto them, the Quran and the Sunnah. We are living in this modern society and we have a more responsibility that we should have Islamic will. I have my personal own experience. I shared with the brother Adnan few days ago when my brother, he passed away 4 months ago on the March 10. He had nothing to write anything about it. 24 hours ago, he was a very healthy, very, mashallah, nothing to wrong anything about it. But within few hours, he died. And what problems we are facing today within our relatives, within the society, we knows very well. So this is our duty. For all of us, we should have to have an Islamic will, because we live in Canada. Few weeks ago, we all of us heard it about it, London family. They all suddenly passed. We are more facing the challenging today's 21st century, especially Islamophobia. Who knows what is going to be happen after few hours? وَمَا تَدْرِ نَفْسٌ مَاذَا تَكْسِبُ غَدًا وَمَا تَدْرِ نَفْسٌ بِأَيِّ أَرْضٍ تَمُوتُ. This is my and your responsibility. Why we live in this society? We have a powerful tradition through the Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We should have written everything, each and every point. They don't have any problem after our death. So Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he mentioned it that even in the hadith that Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he not offering the funeral prayer for someone who had died owing 2 dinar even. In the hadith that the many Sahaba, they narrating this hadith, Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam not even offering the funeral prayer until everything has to be clear. That's why this is the duty for the Muslim who has anything to bequest, not to let 2 nights pass without writing a will about it. And this hadith is quoted in the Sahih al-Bukhari. So Allah says in the Quran, Kutiba alaykum idha hadara ahadakumul maut in taraka khayran al-wasiyah لِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ حَقًّا عَلَى الْمُتَّقِينَ. When that approach you, prescribe for you, this is a duty for all of us. When that is approach you, any one of you, if he leaves the wealth, if he leaves anything behind, is that he should make a bequest for the parents, for the near relatives, according to what is the acceptable. And this is a duty for the righteous people. Very clear message from in the Quran. Also in the hadith that the Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he mentioned it, narrated by Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. When we are facing the problem, then we suddenly come to realize. But in this hadith where Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, narrated by Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, one of the famous companion of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, who said that a man came to the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam and he asked, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, what kind of charity is the best in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What kind of charity in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best, more powerful? And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam replied, to giving when you are healthy and when you are the greedy, hoping to be a wealthy and afraid to be becoming a poor. That means when we are the healthy and we do not have any problem within the current situation, as I mentioned it before, who knows within the few hours, within the few minutes, what's going to happen. So wherever we live, so according to that, country rules is applying to all of us. So best thing to have Islamic will. Few weeks ago when my brother passed and one of the human rights activists, Nicole, I called her and she, just for the sympathy, she called me and asking Imam Ismail, I heard this and this and this is so sad and everything. But suddenly she was asking me, is he have a written anything will related to will? Look at this. This is the non-Muslim, Christian believer, human rights activist, and who telling me that Imam Ismail, Islam is the more powerful, specifically related to this type of issues. Is he have anything written related to will? And we don't have any answer. So the problem is in our society, when time come for musibah, whenever suddenly the musibah we face, suddenly we come to realize we are just walking through the lawyer, we're going to there, we're going to there. Before we facing this type of problem, best and better to we should have a right everything. Today we are attending this Islamic Will program. Is not only the related only Islamic will, but we are listening, we are teaching, we are learning, and we come to know what is the teaching and the ta'lim of the Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How beautiful Islam is and what Islam says in the Quran and the Hadith. If we learn, if we come to know, we make an intention, inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, how much going to get, how much family will get, how much mother get, how much father get, how much relative get, everything. We have a more powerful professional people within the panel, inshallah ta'ala, Brother Malik and his all team, Brother Adnan, Brother Pasa, and Brother Hamid, and many of us. Alhamdulillah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will explain you way better. We live in Canada, according to Islamic perspective, within the Canadian society, what law going to be applied, everything they're going to explain. My job to tell you, this is the Quran and this is the Hadith. We are following tradition of the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the Hadith, in the Islam, it's clearly mentioned it, that kutiba alaykum idha hadara ahdakumul maut ila akhirih. Before that come, before the Malikul Maut come to all of us, this is my and your responsibility, is mandatory for all of us, that we should have a written document, written draft. Our family cannot be faced the problem after our death. As in the Hadith, Prophet ﷺ clearly mentioned it. He not letting the funeral unless and until he check everything has to be clear. Do not pass even the 2 nights. This is the message for all of us. So best thing for all of us that We should have a written everything, and inshallah ta'ala within this panel, all brothers are here, especially Brother Hamid, Brother Malik, and everyone. They're going to be explain you how to go, and they do have a contact, they do have a information. They will share with all of you. You should have a contact them, and inshallah ta'ala, I hope that.
Jazakallah. Thank you, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah ta'ala. Now, just this program is organized by Islamic Will Canada and GTA Professional Network. This is a joint venture. From time to time, we call our learned scholars and lawyers from different fields to share their experiences and expertise with our community. This is essential, as the Imams have said. He emphasized all the Islamic Hadith Mubarakah and Quran Kareem. Now, this is Hamid Pasha. I'll just give a highlight of my Islamic Will Canada. I'm affiliated with them for a long time and I'm admin of it. We promote free will. लिखना कैसा बताते हैं हम? We don't write the will for you. Just we guide you, motivate you. And हमारे bunch of lawyers here, we got about 7 to 8 lawyers that working with us all the time. From time to time, they are helping us, guiding us at this time. In spite of their tight schedule, sometimes they come on our programs. अभी हम चाहते थे प्रोग्राम लंदन में जो एक अनफेटफुल एक्सीडेंट हुआ, इंसिडेंट हुआ, उसके साथ ही करें, बट माय लॉयर्स वर वेरी बिजी. सो बड़ी मुश्किल से हमने आज लॉयर फर्म अमीर से लेकर आए. 3 लॉयर हमारे साथ रहेंगे इंशाल्लाह अज़ीज़. ये प्लेटफॉर्म में सिर्फ हम चाहते हैं कि विल इशूज ही डिस्कस की जाए, नॉट अकायद, नॉट अदर थिंग्स. नमाज कैसा पढ़ना, ये इस्माइल साहब से बाद में पूछे हम. और यहाँ पे हम चाहते हैं कि प्रमोट करें अपना सुन्ना हमारी कम्युनिटी के अंदर. We want to make people aware of the will and the consequences of not having will. Will बनाना जरूरी कितना है और will ना बनाए तो क्या प्रॉब्लम होता है, उनके वर्सा के साथ, उनके हायर्स के साथ क्या क्या इश्यूज आते हैं, वो बात करेंगे हम इंशाल्लाह. हम 1-to-1 बात करते हैं, हमारे एडमिन से आप बात करते हैं ऑफलाइन, बट लॉयर्स कने क्योंकि टाइम नहीं होता है उनके पास, तो उनको हम बाकायदा डिस्कस करते हैं. और अगर हमारे आप ग्रुप में क्वेश्चन डालते हैं तो वन ऑफ आवर लॉयर विल आंसर यू, बिकॉज दे आर द पीपल हु आर प्रोफेशनल्स. हम आपको गाइड करते हैं खाली. और ये पूरा हमारा GTA प्रोफेशनल एज वेल एज इस्लामिक विल कनाडा, वी डोंट चार्ज एनी फी, वी डोंट चार्ज एनी फी फॉर यू. और ना हम लॉयर को पैसे देते हैं आने के लिए, पैसा हमारे पास इन्वॉल्वमेंट नहीं है. वी आर ऑल वॉलंटियर वर्किंग फ्रॉम डिफरेंट फील्ड. हम अपने अपनी फील्ड के अंदर एक्सपर्टीज है अपना अपना, बट वी स्पेयर सम टाइम टू प्रेजेंट दिस काइंड ऑफ प्रोग्राम्स आप लोगों के लिए. हमारा एक ही पर्पज है कि मोटिवेट अ कम्युनिटी एंड इंस्पायर अ कम्युनिटी एंड encourage करें कि डॉक्यूमेंटेशन हो रहा. वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड कैनेडा इज अ डॉक्यूमेंटेशन कंट्री. यहाँ पे डॉक्यूमेंट होना बहुत जरूरी है हर एक के लिए. अभी लंदन में जो वाकया हुआ आपको मालूम, मेरे को मालूम, हम सब लोग कुरान पढ़े, उनके लिए चंदा जमा करें, बट व्हाट हैपेंस टू हिज सन? क्या हो रहा है अगर डॉक्यूमेंट ना हो तो क्या होगा? व्हाट आर द कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस? मलिक साहब एंड टीम विल एक्सप्लेन यू लेटर. नाउ आई रिक्वेस्ट ब्रदर वकार रईस साहब को अपने GTA प्रोफेशनल के सर्विसेज के लिए आपको आगाह करेंगे. प्लीज वकार भाई, प्लीज.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम वरहमतुल्लाहि वबरकातुहू. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया इस्लामिक विल कनाडा का और जो हमारे पैनलिस्ट हैं उनका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया कि वो अपना कीमती वक्त निकाल के तशरीफ लाए हैं और एक बार फिर कम्युनिटी के मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी के लोगों को इस दफ़ा इस्लामिक विल के बारे में उसकी क्या ज़रूरियात हैं, कैसे बननी चाहिए, क्यों बननी चाहिए, ये सारी बातें बस बतलाने की, समझाने की कोशिश करेंगे. GTA प्रोफेशनल अपने तौर पर एक ऐसा इदारा है और एक ऐसा इदारा नहीं कहा जा सकता, कहेंगे हम इसको, ये दोस्तों का एक ग्रुप कह लीजिए, जो हमने तकरीबन कोई 10 साल 11 साल पहले जो था, यूं ही 2-4 दोस्त मिले थे और आपस में बातें करते करते ये बन गया. तो ये कंप्लीटली इट्स वॉलंटियर ड्रिवन. इसके अंदर कोई हायरार्की नहीं है, कोई प्रेसिडेंट, कोई वाइस प्रेसिडेंट, कोई ट्रेजरर वगैरह नहीं है, कोई हमारे पास फंड्स नहीं है, ना हम कोई फंड्स लेते हैं, ना कोई फंड्स हम जमा.
Can we, some people are pinging, can we continue in English? Sorry.
I can, sure.
Sorry, brother.
So that's the reason. So it's a totally volunteer driven association, as I was telling you, and there is no president, vice president, or something like that. And that it was just formed with a thing of a few friends. We sometimes we do assist other organizations, larger organizations, to collect funds for some disaster or for some human causes, but we don't take any money or anything like that. So this is the purpose of one of the purposes of that. And the basic purpose of GTA professionals is to bring the people working within our community together, people from different fields, from different fields of work. They just come together. They form a network with each other. They try to help each other, transfer businesses from one place to other place, and try to find honest people who can work for us. That is one of the goals, and that's how it was started. And we are keep going. And again, Islamic Will Canada, thank you very much for so we have both collaborated and started to take part on that. And if you want to join this organization, you can go to the WhatsApp group and just send your name, and we will intake you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yokhar, brother Yokhar, sir. Very nice of you. Thank you, explaining all details of your group and explaining our new audiences what to do. Brother, now I request Brother Adnan Badar. He is one of our admin volunteer and the person who initiated this group. Brother Adnan will take you all walk through with all the documentation, what are the essential things we have to do, and then we'll have our lawyers to answer your questions. And one of our brother volunteer is taking the questions. If you have any questions related to will and power of attorney, such kind of things, please put your questions in the chat box. One of our volunteers is monitoring that, and we'll take those questions at the end of the session. Thank you, brother Adnan.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So Jazakallah for joining this session. And once again, as Brother Hamid and Brother Wakar mentioned, we are not lawyers, we are just volunteers. We are facilitating this process. This is, I think, 5th or 6th seminar, just for the awareness. So I will be brief as we are over time. So this one, we started journey by learning ourselves, and we were establishing some knowledge base, because will creation process looks very scary, which is not that much. So Alhamdulillah, we learned something. There's a Google Drive. It has a lot of material, previous session recordings, and we would be hosting further workshops. More, I think next time we are planning hands-on. So I'm being volunteer with Hamid Bhai and so many other people. We would be helping you hands-on. It's totally 100% volunteer based, just for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So join our WhatsApp group, and we can detail show you the templates and all of the cool stuff that we have. So if you go to next slide, Amit Bhai, can you go to the next slide? Yeah. There are, so writing a Islamic will, or in Canada, even you can write a handwritten will, and our lawyer will gonna further walk you through. But it's so simple that you go through a template which should be authentic. I have some mosque masjid template here. It's a Windsor Islamic that I made personally for myself. You should make trustworthy, reliable 2 witnesses, 2 executors. Go through the will. There are some standard sections, and no need to over engineer it. Sign it yourself and the witnesses, and pretty much you are done, right? But again, if you have case specific, you have complex situation, if you think there could be conflicts in family, consult with lawyer, right? There could be always corner cases and edges. But my lesson learned is what I've been learning. Instead of thinking weeks and days, and nobody knows, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will call us tomorrow morning. So at least make basic will ready on your document, sign it with 2 witnesses, and inshallah the first release of your will is done. And you should keep improving it. If you have doubt, reach to lawyers. So we will help you creating a basic will. We are not lawyers again, right? So go to the next slide. You will find more will templates on some masajids. We will distribute you this PowerPoint deck, and it's all the material all there. Reliable ulmas like Sheikh Yusuf Badat, Imam Saab, who was just briefing us. You can always contact them for your specific questions. Yeah, so we are ready to help you. Next one. When you would be filling out the will template, the most complex one is how much each person will get. So don't get yourself confused. There are online calculators as well, like this one, inheritance-calculator.net. For example, I have wife, 2 sons, and 1 daughter. What would be my inheritance structure? With parents, without parents. All those if then else but, someone has programmed it done for you, right? Next one, lastly, we are not promoting any lawyers, but obviously when people ask, okay, which lawyer I should consult or start with, these are your starting points. We know few good lawyers. You can contact them, but you can always compare. The Sheikh Yusuf Badat, Imam Ismail Ulgar, and a couple of other folks you can always reach, right? Yeah. So that's pretty much, we are here to help you, inshallah. We'll connect with you offline and hope you will complete your will soon. Jazakallah.
Thank you, Brother Adnan, for giving a good information. I hope our people, attendees, will take this information and do their own homework. And now I request Amir Law Group. Amir Law Group is a famous group handling with family law and other things here. I have Malik Muhammad Suleiman Sahab, Sister Zainab Khan, and Sister Gahriyal with us today. So probably they will answer all your questions at the end of the session. If you have any questions, please send it in chat box. One of our brother volunteer is monitoring that and he will share with us. आप हजरत को कोई क्वेश्चन है तो अपना चैट बॉक्स में डालिएगा जो भी जबान में, तो हमारा वॉलंटियर उसको ट्रांसलेट करके अंग्रेजी में विल कम बैक. Malik साहब, प्लीज गो अहेड. जज़ाकल्लाह. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Abid. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And thank you very much, Islamic Will Canada and GTA Professional Group, for once again for giving me this great opportunity to talk about this very important topic, which is the legal aspect, legal importance of will. So as everybody can see on screen, Brother Amir told you that my name is Malik Muhammad Suleiman and my firm name is Amir Law. And we're a team of 3 lawyers, and we mainly work in the areas of family law, real estate law, wills and estate. And we're currently working from 2 locations. Our main office is in Scarborough. Markham and Miller is more precisely is Markham and 401, 10 Miller Business Code, and other offices in Vaughan. Basically, we'll go by slides. So we'll talk about the importance of will. As Brother Ismail, has already explained you what is the Islamic importance of a will. It is also emphasized by Hadith, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that it's not permissible for any Muslim who has something to will to stay for 2 nights without having his lost will. I think this is there's nothing left after this, which is evident from this Hadith, how much is the importance of will, having will, especially for a Muslim. And also in the current scenario, like increasing Islamophobia and the current recent London incident, the community has become more aware of it, and will is something which is very important. It is a legal document which not only protects your spouse, your children, this is the best thing you can do for your family. And we'll start with this, that importance of will, why it is important. Yeah, so it is important because if someone who wants that after his and her life, how his wishes will carry out, how his estate will be distributed. You can decide how your estate will be distributed among your beneficiaries, among your legal heirs. And it's also important if you have a minor children, so who will take care of them after your life. So this is one of the 2 most important things that why you need a will. And who needs a will? Everybody needs a will who is 18 plus, he or she can have will. And no matter whether you have any assets or not, the will is always needed. And what happens if one dies without a will? So as I said earlier, why the will is important, that if you want to control your assets, if somebody who dies, like his property is called estate. So if you want your wishes carried out, how you want to distribute your estate, obviously you need a will. Otherwise, your estate will be distributed as per the state laws, and you will have no control on your estate after your death. But if you want to control your estates after your death, then you need a will. And also, if you have a minor children, if you want who take care of them after your death, so you need to appoint some guardian in your will. You can appoint a guardian in your will. So the court will obviously will respect your wishes, and they will permanently appoint that guardian. So, and obviously, if you die without a will, if you die intestate, so you have no control over it. And who should create a will? Age requirement, as I said, is 18 plus, and will for special needs, minor in my family. Yes, if there's any special need, you have a dependent child, you have a minor children, you want to specify something special for your dependent child, for anything, for your dependent parents, anything. And if you have a minor children, you want, if like life is unpredictable, anything happens to anyone at any time, as we see in the recent London incident, and if this is a situation you don't have will, then you have no control over your assets and you have no control over your minor children who will take care of them. So if obviously if you have a will, then you can control your assets, you can control how they will be distributed and how your minor children will be taken care of, who will take care of them. So what is the process to create a, Brother Amit, can we go back? So should whole family create a single will, or spouse should have separate wills? Yes, I think the both husband and wife, we call a mirror will. They should have a separate wills, and they can appoint each other as attorney in their wills. And if anything happens to one, that obviously that asset will pass on to surviving spouse. If the both don't survive, then their assets will pass on to the legal heir, the children, as per the instruction. So Islamic will is recognized by the Canadian court. Yes, it is recognized by the Canadian court only if there is something which override the land laws. If you, let's say, if there's a family law act and there's a dependent child claim, that those are statutory rights, like if there's any dependent child, any dependent person which is in direct relationship to you, and you are providing him a financial help, just before your death, and if you don't leave anything special for him, and if you die, that dependent child can challenge your will, that he can say that I was entitled to get some special, some extra from other siblings, from other beneficiaries. And also under Family Law Act, your spouse has election, either he or she can go under will or under Family Law Act. So otherwise, your Islamic will is perfectly acceptable if you don't override the laws of the land. What's the process to create a will? So obviously the process is to create a will that, so I will go to the components of will. Who are the will? Testator, executor, and witness. Obviously the one who makes will is called testator. And executors, you appoint someone in your will that after your life, that person will carry on your wishes, and witnesses, yes, if for a valid will, you need two witnesses, that it should be signed in the presence of two witnesses. How many executors and witnesses I need? So we always suggest two executors. If for some reason one executor is not available, for example, if the executor, dies before the testator, then other can take in. So it's always good to have more than one executors, and witnesses always required, two witnesses required, and it is good. There's no legal requirement they have to be Canadian citizen or resident, but it's good if they are Canadian citizen or residents and they live in the same city. Reason why, if for some reason the will is challenged, the court need to call them and they will be readily available. Otherwise, there's no such legal requirements. And executors and witnesses cannot be the same person. They will be a different persons. And spouse, any person who is a beneficiary in your will, your children, your siblings, your spouse, and your parents, anyone who's beneficiary, you are leaving something for him and her in your will, he or she cannot be a witness. What decision can executor make? Executor can make only those decisions which you mention in your will. So executor cannot take any decision on his own. So obviously, executor is the person who will carry on your wishes, after your death, and he has to follow the deceased wishes, whatever is mentioned in the wills. And Brother Amit, can you go back? And what if will executor witnesses die before testator? That's why I said if it's better if we have more than two executors. If one dies, other can take in. Otherwise, if there are two executors and both dies before the testator, obviously then court will appoint someone as an executor. There's a process I will talk about later, the probate process. Whoever is executor in the will, he or she has to apply to the court for the probate after testator's death. So after creating a will, you don't need to submit your will in the court. You can keep it with you. You can keep in your lockbox. You can keep in at home. You can keep with the lawyer. You can keep with your family doctor. But your family should know that you have a will. Presumably, if someone dies and they can't find the will, it will be presumed that there's no will. So your legal hair, your family should know that you have a will, and you don't need to submit to the court. We only submit will to the court after someone's death for the probate process, which we will talk about later. And what if the executor of my will conducts fraud? So chances are very less, because he has to go through the court after one's death. After the probate process, he has to carry out the deceased wishes, and he cannot act on his own. Obviously, the court, this is the court process, the probate process, the court monitor all the process, and he has to follow that process. Next slide. So components of will, obviously, whoever is making will, testator, he should know his heirs. And this is a very important thing when lawyers make wills. We make sure testator's testamentary capacity. Okay, this is a very important thing that we should make sure that whether he or she has testamentary capacity, he knows who are the legal heirs, he knows what are his assets, whether he understands the contents of the will. He not only understands the contents of the will, he has to approve the contents of the will. If he doesn't know about the heirs, he has no testamentary capacity. We also have to know whether the testator is under no influence of anyone, any family member. That's a very important job on the shoulders of lawyers. We have to make sure, because if this is the case, if there's no testamentary capacity, the will can be challenged by any beneficiary, by any legal heirs later on. And funeral and burial rights, I always tell my clients, like, when someone dies, there's a chaos, nobody finds will, immediately. And most of the time, the family don't know whether he or she has will. So always, if you have any funeral and burial rights, you should tell your family, your kids, your siblings verbally, what are your funeral and burial rights. If you want your dead body take to back home, if there's anything else, that should be, family should be aware of it, instead of mentioning in the will, which will be discovered later, and at that time it will be too late. And one of the components, as I already explained, executor is a person, the attorney who you appoint in your will. Most likely, husband and wife will, we have a mirror will. In husband will, wife will be attorney. In the wife will, the husband will be attorney. Obviously, we ask for a two-person, if there's a husband or wife, for some reason, not available out of the country, he or she has died, then there should be another executor, which could be your older son and your any family friend. Custody of minor children and guardianship, yes, you can address this in your will. If you have minor children under 18, that's very important thing. You should appoint someone, custodian, guardian in your will, who will take care of your children after your death. And one thing is, which is very important, I explained in my previous seminars, that whoever will be appointed as a guardian, he or she should know your family very well. He or she should be comfortable with your children. Your children should be comfortable with him and her. And he or she should be the same city. Otherwise, if there will be no compatibility, that will create another problem. And whoever you appoint a guardian in your will, he has 90 days to apply to the court after testator's death for permanent appointment of a guardian. If the court thinks that this person is not a fit guardian, he or she cannot get along with the children, the court has authority to change the guardian. Anybody other from your family, from your friends can, come forward, and the court will appoint him as a guardian. So if you always keep in mind, if you appoint someone guardian for your children, he or she should know your family values, and your children should be comfortable with him, and she should be living in the same city, in the same jurisdiction. So if a situation like this comes up, and the things will be smooth. Power of attorney is the document which you create, which you in your own life, which works in when somebody is alive. So will is a document when it kicks in when somebody, after someone's death. So power of attorney, let's say for your medical care, for your property disposal, you can give power of attorney to anyone in your life. If for some reason you are not in country, you are not available, you're sick, something like that. So you can appoint anyone as attorney for your medical care if you're an elderly person and for your other purposes. You can give other additional instructions and directives in your will. Yes, wills are very, like simple wills and complex wills. You can, if you want to create trust for your children, you think that if you die, your children are minor, you don't want to dispose of, you don't want to distribute upright your assets, you can ask your attorney. He can keep the things in trust, you can create a trust for some time, the income will be used for your children education, for upbringing, everything. Other like burial and funeral instructions, you can give instructions. If there are any other family concerns, you can mention in your will. Charitable contribution and testamentary transfer, yes, you can do charitable contribution. You can leave certain share, whatever you like, for the charitable institution in your will. And there's no, like a bar on it. It's up to you. So a lot of people, they divide their assets, after they, if they have 3 children, let's say they say they want to divide into 4, like parts, 3 for the children and 1 part for the charitable institutions. And loans and automatic withdrawals, obviously, if there's any loans, like for example, if in the real estate property, there's any mortgage on the property and somebody dies, that's a liability in the state, that will be paid first. If there's any loans, any liability on the state, that will be paid first, then the property will be divided, whatever is left with. And properties, bank accounts, bank lockers, if anything is in, first of all, you should understand that if anything is joint tenancy, if husband and wife, maybe father and son, mother and daughter, father and daughter, if there's anything in joint tenancy, joint account, let's say most likely the real estate property, I also work as a real estate lawyer. So mostly husband and wife, they take property as a joint tenant. If one party dies, other party has a right of survivorship. The other party will automatically become the owner of that property. You don't need will for that. If any assets in joint tenancy, you don't need will for that. That will automatically pass on to the survivor spouse, survivor children, whoever is a survivor. Okay. And same thing with the bank accounts. If anything is joint accounts, that will be automatically passed on to survivor. And how should I mention bank accounts, lockers? You don't need to mention anything in your will, the bank accounts, precisely whatever the balance in the account, whatever the cash you have. So all that you need to mention that whatever the deceased assets, how it will be distributed, and in what ratio, in what like percentage you want to give it to your children, your son, your daughter, your charitable institution. So you don't really need to mention your bank accounts and your how many properties you carry. So what about RSP, RASP, TFSA? These are all the benefits plan. And as I said earlier, if you have a named beneficiary in these plans, you don't need will. That will automatically pass on to the beneficiary. If you have any named, so always if you have any life plan, any benefit plan, make sure that you have beneficiary, named beneficiary. Okay, that will automatically pass on to your beneficiary after your death. You don't need will for that. This is another way to avoid state tax. As you know, when somebody dies, the will has to be probated. The will has to be authenticated by the court. When you apply to the court for the probate, you have to pay a state tax, which is almost 1 to 1.5% of state. So if you have anything in joint tenancy, any benefit plan, you have a named beneficiary, that will be excluded from that state. You don't need to pay tax on that, and you don't need will for that. So this is a state planning. We always advise our clients. What about mortgages and other loans? As I told already, that if there are any mortgage, any loans on the state, that's a liability in the state, that will be paid first. Okay, if there's a 1 million state and the $500,000 is loan will be paid first, and whatever is left, that will be distributed as per the intention of the testator. What if I buy new property after will creation? As I said, we don't need to mention anything in the will, how many properties you have. So obviously you have given your scheme that how you want to be distributed to your beneficiary after your death, and whatever your property will be, your assets will be at the time of death, that will be distributed as per your wishes, mentioned in the will. And same thing with a bank account and anything overseas, there is a convention, some country has a convention, if Canada is not a signatory to that, if you have anything abroad in foreign jurisdiction, it's always good you have a will over there. Okay, so Canadian will not be like enough for your foreign assets. If you have any foreign assets anywhere back home, So because every country laws are different, so it's better you have will over there. Brother Amir, next. So will execution process, again, I have already spoke about, like, so first of all, when you have a will, so after one's death, will takes effect after one's some deceased death. So the will has to be probated. That's called, this process is called probate, or you can say we apply for the appointment of state trustee. Whoever is executor in your will, he or she has to apply to the court after someone's death, and the court will appoint him as a state trustee. Once he or she is appointed as a state trustee, then the distribution process will start. After paying the debts, after paying the liabilities on the state, whatever is the loan, deceased loan, mortgage, anything. So that process will start after the probate process, when somebody is appointed a state trustee by the court. So this is a will execution process in Canada. So a lot of people, they have misconception that they have will, and when they will die, it will take into effect. No, it's not like that. You have a will, it has to be probated, it has to be applied to the court after death by your executor. So once he or she has been appointed as a state trustee, then the distribution process will start after paying all the debts on the states. So again, I'm a will executor. Yes, if you are a will executor, so you have to apply to the court for the probate process for appointment of a state trustee. Unless you are not appointed as a state trustee, the will cannot be executed. The will has to be probated by Superior Court of Ontario, then the will be executed. And how much time it takes nowadays, COVID, everything is backlog, usually it takes 3 to 4 months, but we have seen that in many cases, the court takes more than 6 months, So, but usually it takes 3 to 4 months for the probate process. So obviously, do I need a lawyer? Yes, lawyers are they are for this job. You can apply on your own, but it's a tedious job. It's a lot of forms and a lot of things involved, and it's better you apply through a lawyer. So I always say, because they are the trained persons, they know their job. So because it's a tedious job, and but there's no bar on it. If you want to apply on your own, if you know the process, you can apply for that. And could there be a dispute? Yes. So as I said earlier, there are some challenges available to will. So there are challenges. Let's say if your will can be challenged by your spouse. So spouse has an election. He or she can, elect under Family Law Act or under will. So if there is a situation like this, it is also dependent child claim. And the dependent child claim is there's a dependent child, the dependent parents, dependent common law partner, dependent spouse, anyone in your right relationship, direct relationship before your death, and you have been providing him financial assistance, which is in addition to his regular support, he or she can challenge the will. So he can ask for the special provisions. So that's one of the challenge to the will. And if there's anything, any beneficiary can challenge the will, he or she can say if there's any testamentary capacity issue. Okay, so the will can be challenged, and the will never expire. Yeah, obviously you need to be updated regularly. If there's any material change in your, let's say the marital changes, divorce, marriage, and there's any addition in the family, and there's a vast, change in your like assets, then you need to update your will. Otherwise, the will never expires. If nothing changes, everything remains same. The will is good for all the time. But you should review your will after some time, if there's any material change in your circumstances. And obviously, you need to renew your will when there's a marriage or divorce. And you don't need to renew your will when there's any changes in your bank accounts. And will creation, yes, obviously it's a different process. This first time when you go for a will, if the clients come to us, we interview them, we have a couple of sitting with them, then we prepare the will, then they again come for sign up in the presence of witness, make sure everything. Renewal process is a different process. Either you can discard the previous will, you can have a new will. We can mention that previous wills are revoked and you have a new will. Either you can just add a, addendum in your will, if any change you want to do that. But most likely what we do, if you have a previous will, old will, we create a new will that will automatically, revoke the previous will, and your latest will take place. And do I need to pay the lawyer? Yes, obviously lawyer, they don't work for free. Yes, and they charge for their time and expertise. Yes. So can I make a free Islamic will? So this is Islamic Will Canada. They are making free will, and this is a platform. You can contact them, Brother Adnan and Brother Hamid. And there's no harm, as I said, to make an Islamic will, but you just have to take care of certain uh, local laws, some statute, so you cannot override them. It's always good if you have a Islamic will to consult a lawyer to ask about those things, so just to avoid the situation that your will be challenged, on based on those grounds, So how to make a will more authentic, recognized by the court? Yes, if you taken care of all the laws of the land and those stuff, so your will not be challenged. And testamentary capacity is one of the most important issue also. So if the person has no testamentary capacity, is not in his free will, is under influence, that will can't be challenged. And one thing which is not over here, but I want to tell you, a holographic will, handwritten will is acceptable. It doesn't need any formal legal formalities or any witnesses. You can leave a handwritten will with a signature at the end of the will. That is acceptable. Only thing is, again, just like Islamic will, there shouldn't be anything which is against the laws of the land. Otherwise, holographic will is always acceptable. If there are not other challenges, later on somebody, if there are not other testamentary challenge and dependent child challenge, otherwise, holographic will, handwritten written will without witnesses is acceptable. And yes, general recommendation is always, whatever you have property, you have accounts, always keep it in joint accounts. So it's a good way to avoid will. If you don't have will, you have joint accounts. So there is a right of survivorship. The things will pass on to the surviving spouse. And every case situation is different. It's always good to discuss with the lawyer, with the later person. And if there is any issue regarding a Islamic division of your assets, so always you can consult with any Islamic scholar. So yeah, thank you very much. This is all about my lecture on the will. If there's any question, I can address one by one, Brother Amit.
Yeah, brother, can you open that Word document? I have summarized questions for you.
Now we have some questions came on our chat box, and Brother Malik will try to give a couple of answers for them generally asked, not a specific question for a particular case. It will be generalized answer. Please, Brother Malik, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Brother Amit. What are the features which make a will, an Islamic will? So obviously this is not my domain, brother. If Imam Ismail is still there, so he can explain to you about the Islamic will. So I don't make real Islamic will. So
this question will be taken offline, sir.
Yeah. So anyways, we will provide information about that. And handwritten, I already explained that is acceptable will. That's called holographic will. If there's no witness needed and only signature needed at the end of the will, and that's perfectly fine as long as it doesn't violate the laws of the land. And holographic will is always acceptable. But there are certain formalities which should be taken care of. So again, question number 3: if executor and witnesses dies before testator, that's why we say that there should be more than one executor. If one dies, other person can take place, And testator and witnesses, there's no problem if the witnesses die before that, as long as the will is challenged and those witnesses were called, that they witnessed that will was signed in their presence. Otherwise, that's not a problem, but the executor could be a problem if he dies before the testator. That's why we always recommend more than one executor in the will. So, will the court appoint executor from family? Yes, if the both executor dies, let's say, obviously the court will appoint someone from the family as an executor. So charitable donation can be made overseas. Yes, you can make your donation overseas, but the only problem is the issue is there, how they will be taken care of. Like if there's a charitable institutions, anything outside the country, obviously they can't come over here. There will be some, immigration requirements, but you can make those arrangements. You can do your donation, charitable donation to overseas as well. There's no
The last question, please.
how much charitable contribution allowed as per Islamic point of view. This is Brother Ismail's domain. I can't tell you,
Offline.
but this is your assets. You can do as per Canadian will. Nobody can stop you. You can 100% donate your assets to the charitable institution. There's no bar on it. Yeah, as long as there is a, like if there's any spousal challenge and any dependent claim challenge on the will, So if something is because the spouse has rights under Family Law Act, which is called equalization, and you cannot like limit those rights. Like you cannot give your 100% access to someone else and you totally deprive your spouse. Yes.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Brother Malik sir. I would like to
Thank you,
thank
sir.
all our attendees and participants, especially Imam Ismail sir, Amir Malik.
Assalamu alaikum, brother Hamid sir.
Yes, sir.
Do you want me to mention that those questions which is
I got only 2 minutes for you to perform dua, sir.
Yeah.
I want to finish off at 4 o'clock sharp. Let me thank the people. If you have time, give a precise answer and then you can perform dua before 4 o'clock.
Yes.
Sorry, brother, we need to maintain the timeline. Once again, I would like to thank all of our volunteers, especially Brother Daniel, Brother Shayan Daniel. He helped us in preparing all this kind of technology work. And Brother Adnan and Brother Maulana Ismail Saab. Ismail Saab, please, आप जो भी answer है precisely दीजिएगा. Then you perform dua. We started with our traditional system reciting Quran Kareem. Now we will finish off with dua. So from Islamic Will Canada and GTA Purpose, once again I thank all our attendees and request all of you to prepare the will and keep your documents intact. You are living in the world of documentation. Canada is a world of documentation. If you need any questions or answers, contact any of our admin or volunteer offline. If any religious question, contact Brother Maulana Ismail Safillah. Bismillah Ismail Saab. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullah. Just the 2 questions I just wanted to mention. Someone asked how much we should donate. Brother Malik, he mentioned it very well, but the one thing I just wanted to point it out here, that is it is also mentioned in the hadith that Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam mentioned it. Do not leave your family, do not leave your relatives behind poorness or without wealth. This is also mentioned. So we need to understand, leave our family members, they should have a something. They cannot be asked something to someone. Also, what is the difference between the will and the Islamic will? Islamic will, according we going to distribute, it is also mentioned in the Quran that how much going to whom and how much going to whom. All yusikumullahu fi awladikum, ayah number 7 to 11, Allah mentioned it. How much the sons going to get, how much daughters going to get, how much mother, how much wife, everything is there. But we going to distribute according to Islamic perspective, which is mentioned in the Quran and Hadith. Number 1. Number 2, will, where we are living in, like we are living in Canadian society, if we do not have a written anything, so will going to apply, that means according to Canadian law. So that's why we prefer and encourage everyone to have an Islamic will. Islamic will means you cannot make a wasiyah more than 1/3 as well. So that means you cannot living your children without wealth or without anything. So this is only the different will and Islamic will. Will, it's something written draft. And Islamic will, we going to distribute according to Quran and the Hadith. That's only the difference.
Jazakallah. Dua farmaiye, sir.
Yes. اللهم صل على سيدنا نبينا شفينا حبيبنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم رب اغفر وارحم وتجاوز عنا إنك أنت الأعز الأكرم. رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. O Allah, record our name among those who will be forgiven. O Allah, accept all our du'as and within our risk with the lots of barakah. O Allah, protect us, guide us, and keep us safe from all type of calamities.
Ameen.
O Almighty, grant us success and elevate us, our status in this world and the world is hereafter. O Allah, grant us and grant our family with a good health and a long prosperous life. Allahumma Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana wa qina azab al-nar wa
Ameen.
qina azab al-qabr
Ameen.
وقنا عذاب الحشر وقنا عذاب الفقر وقنا عذاب الميزان وقنا عذاب الكرز وقنا عذاب المرز وقنا عذاب الآفات وقنا عذاب السكرات وقنا عذاب الموت وقنا عذاب الفتنة المسيح الدجال. O Allah, give us goodness in this dunya and the goodness in the akhirah and save us from the punishment of the hellfire. O Allah, save us from the punishment of the grave. O Allah, save us from the punishment of the day of the reckoning.
Ameen.
O Allah, save us from the punishment of the poverty. O Allah, save us from the punishment of the scale. O
Ameen.
Allah, save us from the punishment of the debit. O
Ameen.
Allah, save us from the punishment of sickness.
Ameen.
O Allah, save us from the punishment of the calamities.
Ameen.
O Allah, save us from the punishment of the pain and death. O Allah, save us from the punishment of the death. O Allah, save us from the punishment of the trial of the Dajjal. O Allah, save us from the punishment of the fire. O Al-Malik, Allahumma inna nas'aluka min khayri ma sa'alaka minhu nabiyyuka Muhammadun sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma inna na'udhu bika min sharri ma sta'adhaka minhu nabiyyuka محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم.
Alhamdulillah. Shukriya, Janab. Allama Sahab, shukriya aapka.
وإياك.
Brother Chan, let us close the session. Thank you for all of you for attending the session. And thank you for all our volunteers, and especially Brother Chan, Daniel, and Allama Imam Sahab, Ismail Sahab, and Malik Khan Group. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. 25th July 2021, 15 Dhul Hijjah 1442 Hijri. Assalamu alaikum.